Welcome to a new Throne and Liberty video. It's Nofix here, and today let's continue with this series of videos explaining the different mastery skills of the weapons I'm using. The previous one was the bow, and today I'm going to talk about the crossbow. So let's start with the red tree. In the red tree we have Bloodlust acceleration, calculated power, Reaper's call, and Annihilator. So let's start with the first one, Bloodlust acceleration. How do we trigger Bloodlust without this mastery? We need to actually use skills to do that, okay? We need to make some hits and we can see Bloodlust stacking over here, okay? The difference when we use Bloodlust acceleration is that first we have this extra benefit, Bloodlust acceleration, which is giving us an extra 5% attack speed, okay? But also it's triggering both Bloodlust acceleration and Bloodlust with our regular attacks. So if we unlock this one, and I'm using Bloodlust here, I just can attack and we will see here that the effect will trigger. It's a 5% chance, remember. So at some point, do you see? We have Bloodlust acceleration and Bloodlust. So the more attack speed you have, the better for this, because it means more chance to this for proccing automatically. You don't need to just do this. Also notice that when you trigger Bloodlust with skills, it doesn't proc Bloodlust acceleration. It's only with regular attacks that you get this extra attack speed bonus. Next in line is calculated power, and this is just as simple as checking the numbers. Right now I have 455 max of hand base damage, okay, and 28%. If I pick this one, let me pick this one, now I will have 485 max damage and less of hand attack chance, and this is the key, okay? So more of hand max base damage, this is trivial because it's a flat addition, but notice this, it's not a 4% flat reduction here. I mean, I don't have 24% now, I have 26.88%, because as usually most of the things that are adding or subtracting a percentage of something is based on the current percentage. It's not a flat reduction or a flat addition, similar to selfless diffusion and etc. They are not flat addition. They are based on your current offhand attack chance. So in this case, this 4% is only reducing with Malakar, which has 28, just 1.2 more or less it was. So the next one is Reaper calls, and basically this is what it is. I mean, there is nothing to test here. When a target has less than 30% HP, your skills, your crossbow skill, not your longbow, not your staff, not your cursors, just your crossbow attack skills, and crossbow attack skills, not regular attacks, just the attack skills will deal 5% more extra damage. And finally, we have Annihilator. Annihilator increases the offhand attack chance by 20% when there is an opponent within 10 meters. So right now I have Annihilator. If I go far, I don't have Annihilator. If we check this, okay, let me just remove this to have a better number. So my regular offhand attack chance is 28%. If I get close to get Annihilator, it's boosting my offhand by 20%. But this is not 48%. It's not a flat addition. Okay, it's what I was saying earlier. It's just 20% over my existing 28%. And this is basically a 5.6 addition over here. So this is it for the red tree. Let's now check, for example, the yellow one. So I travel here to Saurodoma to test the yellow tree. So basically the first one we have is Tactical Deflection. And Tactical Deflection is basically the crossbow's block skill without actually blocking. It's going to trigger the rupturing parry when you get hit by a melee attack. So basically the crossbow parry, what it does is, if you block, you are going to push your enemies away. Then Tactical Deflection, what it's doing is, without blocking, you are going to push your enemy away. Only once every 30 seconds, okay? It has like a 30 seconds cooldown. So right now this is enabled. I have detection over here. If I climb here and let this guy attack me, it needs to hit. Okay, see? It was pushed away. Did you notice that the effect actually triggered after a second? This was changed some time ago, and this is actually beneficial for us. Why? Because why is this skill useful? This skill is useful because when you get jumped by a Ravager or a Gladiator, and you get stunned or you get prone and they are charging the guillotine, they will get pushed after a second. So they will get pushed before they use the guillotine. That means that that guillotine will not hit you and they will need to load it again. And the good thing about this is, if you have a decent amount of debuff duration, you will break from the CC, be it a stun, be it a prone, whatever. You are going to get free from that and you can block the guillotine. That's why I often say that when people complain about Ravagers or Gladiators one-shotting you, it's a skill and a build issue, because you actually have the tools to prevent that. You can build heavy attack evasion. Yes, they may have a lot, but you can still do that and reduce the chance of getting a heavy attack. And you can build the buff duration to prevent this situation. And just block the attack. The next one is a mana breakpoint. A mana breakpoint basically is what this is. It's going to boost your hit and your critical by 150 when your mana is under 40%. That's it. They finally killed me. The next one is Agile Strike. And this one, basically what it does is, whenever we apply a weaken, we get an extra movement speed. I mean, it's only 3 stacks, so we can get up to 6% movement speed. And notice the difference here. The second part, the increases magic melee and range hit chance by 30 for 3 seconds, is not related to the weaken, it's related to critical. So this skill actually has 2 different benefits. So if we go, for example, to the guild house and I apply a weaken on a dummy, for example this one, you see I have 2 stacks and it's boosting the movement speed. But then there is also the other effect, the one that when I land a critical hit, I'm going to get extra hit. So if I'm attacking, as you can see, it's boosting my hit all the time, because normally you are landing critical attacks most of the time against dummy. And the last one is Archenemy. This one is quite interesting, you know, because you get a lot of movement speed. Movement speed is a very odd stat because you may see it as, for example, this one 8%, okay? This one 3.2, this one 3.2 as well, but they all compound, and when you actually have a decent number of percentage movement speed, it's pretty noticeable in game. When you can just kite some people, that people again usually say this game has no skill, this game is just spamming skills and check who kills faster. No, you actually can kite in this game. You need to know what you are doing and what you are building, but there is more to a skill in this game than just spamming some hit, just smashing the buttons, let's say. So this one is actually good. The problem is that if you get hit by a melee hit, well, your movement speed is fuck up for a while, but it's good enough. I'm actually using this in my PvP if I recall correctly. Let me check. Yeah, I'm using this one. So for me, it's very good. Crossbow. So this is it for the yellow tree. Let's dive now into the blue one. Let's continue with the blue tree. The blue tree is the one that you will use if you are playing evasion, because basically everything is related to evasion except this one. So what does recovery balls do? Recovery balls is an extra effect to corrupt nail, and it's basically like when you are getting down to 30% HP, you are going to have this 5000 extra health for 5 seconds, and it has a 60-second cooldown. Okay, it may sound good. I actually used to use this skill a lot when I was playing Fury, but nowadays I think this skill has lost its appeal. Why? Because back then you were using like 15, 16, maybe 20k HP. So assuming 20k HP, this skill was regenerating 25% of your total health. But nowadays we have a lot more. We have almost 30k most of the time, or even more. 30k or 28, 29, something around those numbers. Unless you are a very, 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 very glass cannon and then complain that you are dying quickly. So in most cases, we have a lot more HP now. So this extra health is not enough to justify its use over the eagle and tactical deflection, in my opinion. So the next ones are Nature's Gamble, Final Heartbeat, and Mirage Dancer. So basically, all these three are related to, let's say, dynamic evasion. And what do I mean by this? I mean that you are getting a lot of evasion just by meeting certain conditions. So the first one, Nature's Gamble. Nature's Gamble, at the beginning I thought that this skill was a scam, but then you realize it's not. Because what it's doing, okay, let me first remove this. So this is my evasion in this character, okay, 356. And when I pick Nature's Gamble, what it's going to do is it's going to lower that base evasion by 150. However, when I'm using a mobility skill, I'm going to get an extra 300 evasion for 1 second and extra 150 for the duration of nature's power. And this is the trick, as usually in this game the tooltips are not very clear. If you read it like it is in the tooltip right now, you will think, okay, but it's removing 150 just to give me 150 and then an extra 150 for a second. This is worthless. I don't want extra evasion, extra 150 for a second. But the trick is that this extra 300 for a second and extra 150 for the duration of nature's power is starting from your original evasion. So in this case, my original evasion was 356. Now I'm down by 150 in range and magic evasion, okay? When I use a mobility skill, what is going to happen is that for the first second I'm going to have extra 300 evasion, but not extra starting from this, extra starting from this, so 656. Then after a second it's going to be down by 150, but again 150 from this, so 506, not from this, okay? So let's just do this. See? Down, and after nature's power is down, back to minus 150. This is what nature's gamble is about. The next one is final heartbeat, and this basically is, as you can read, when you are below 25% HP, your evasion is going to be increased by 600. This is the kind of mastery that sometimes save you and sometimes you say, why I'm picking this if it's doing nothing? But yes, it's worth it to have it. And the final one is Mirage Dancer. And what it's saying is that when you are evading an attack, your movement speed is increasing by 8%. So remember what I said earlier with the yellow tree. Movement speed is, when you stack movement speed, the difference gets quite significant. If you stack this with this, with this, with this, with Wing Snatcher, there are many sources of movement speed, and when you stack all of them, you can run away from any fight and engage later in a matter of seconds. So it's very good to have it. And then we have also the extra mobility evasion effect, which is that just boosting by 200. So remember that, well, let me remove this. So now my evasion is 404. If I move it, it's going to be 604. Okay. Notice that all the skills except final heartbeat, all the two are boosting range and magic evasion. Range and magic evasion. Detection is also, well, this is a passive, but it's also boosting magic and range evasion. Because at the beginning it was also boosting melee evasion, but it was too up. So they actually, in fact, the version we got in global never had a melee evasion. It was available in Korea, but not in global. So this is it for the blue tree. And finally, let's jump into the purple tree. So the first one in the purple tree is Eagle Vision. And Eagle Vision and Predator Focus has the same issue we had with the Sniper Sense skill from the bow. The Sniper Sense, the extra critical and the extra critical damage was not visible in our stats. And the same happened with the base Eagle Vision. It says that on hit, magic and range hit increases by 40. And also it's going to increase by an additional 20 and weaken chance by 5 per 1 meter of distance. Yeah, but the problem is that when you attack, you don't see these numbers increasing. You don't see this increasing. Okay? So you just need to actually believe that, or just get a high number of data and try to decide whether they are actually doing what they do or not. Personally, I believe they are doing that. However, when we enable Predator's Focus, we have a clear visible stats. So Predator Focus says that if we are within 15 meters, our hit is increased by 100, and if we are within 10 meters, our critical is also increasing. So if we are far away, we don't have anything. If we get a little closer, we have the effect boosting the hit, and if we get closer, we have the effect boosting the critical. That's it. It's as simple as that. The next one is Mayhem Burst. And Mayhem Burst is similar to this one. Mana breakpoint was triggering at 40% mana total mana, and this one is triggering at 30%. And the difference is just that you get this extra offhand attack chance and extra mana consumption when you are doing a crossbow's attack. The reality is that what is going to happen is the same that happened with, for example, with Ambidexterity or with Annihilator. This extra 20% is not a flat 20%. It's just an extra 20% over your existing offhand attack chance. So it's not really that worth it. However, they are not better picks. Or either if you are going just full DPS, you are probably playing evasion, so you are picking calculated power and Nature's Gamble most of the time. If you are on PvE, you really don't care about anything. Maybe you go these two or these two. I don't remember which one I'm using. Let me check. See, I'm using these two. I'm not even using this because it's not really worth it in my opinion, because the extra benefit you get is not that good. If this was a flat 20%, it will be better. Next in line we have Deathstrike Pact, and this one is very good for PvE. For PvP not much, but for PvE you always use it, because when you are landing Crossbow's basic attack, you have an extra probability, 5% probability of boosting the critical of all your party, not just you. So this basically is attack, and as you can see over here, it's triggering. And I don't know why, but it doesn't feel like a 5% because it's always triggering. And the good thing about this is that it's for the whole party. So for example, if you are playing a scout in PvP may be a very good DPS, but on PvE it's more like an offensive support, because you are playing, for example, this skill boosts the critical of all your party. You are playing the marks, you are playing basically with the mark and this and weak point shot, you are giving to your party, you are providing to your party critical damage, cooldown reduction, and depending on the other skill, you are probably using Nature's Blessing, you are also providing mana regen, and depending on the situation, if you are also using Flash Wave, you are providing healing. So it's more like an offensive support. You are still dealing some damage, but you are not going to be the main DPS in PvE. As I say, in PvP it's very strong, and you can just look at the table, at the board in every battleground fight, and if there is a scout that knows what they are doing, picking proper targets, they are probably within the top 5 of their team. This is an important thing to bear in mind, because if you get stomped, you may be rank 20 but still be the best in your team, for example. And the last one is for boosting your mana. It increases mana regen by 260 when your mana is lower than 30%, and it decreases your max mana as well. This one is a tricky one. It depends on what are you using. For example, for PvE, I'm using it, if I recall correctly. Let me check. See, as a scout, I'm using it now. As a Fury, for example, this was actually very bad, because as a Fury, I wanted to have the more max mana possible to have extra damage with this. So it depends on what you are pairing the crossbow with. But if whatever you are pairing the crossbow with requires the more max mana, the better, your best bet is not to pick this, okay? Just remove that and don't pick that. So this is it for all the masteries related to the crossbow. I hope you enjoyed this video. As usual, if you have any question, you think I say something wrong, I may make mistakes, so if you think something is not correct, just feel free to add a comment and let's debate about that. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.